from the American Academy of Pediatrics.
It is time for another Ask the Pediatrician episode. Thank you to all of you who sent us your fabulous questions on all kinds of things. As always, I've got just the person to answer them.
We do recommend that everyone over the age of 6 months get a flu vaccine every season and ideally try to get it before Halloween for the best protection. So let's just start with that. As far as why the CDC no longer recommends it or makes it optional or talk to your physician, we always encourage you to talk to your physician, but your physician will likely encourage getting the vaccine.
Welcome to Healthy Children, the podcast for parents from the American Academy of Pediatrics. I'm Dr. Edith Bracho-Sanchez. I am a pediatrician and a mama figuring it out. This is a judgment-free space where all questions are good questions and the answers will hopefully be even better. Let's get started. It's Ask Your Questions Day, and we are so lucky to have Dr. Jennifer Shu back, who is the Chief Medical Editor of HealthyChildren.org. Welcome back, Jennifer. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you so much for having me on again, Edith.
Let's do this. The first listener question says, I've been following the news about the CDC drastically reducing the number of vaccines it recommends for children in the U.S. I'm confused about why this decision was made. Who can I trust for the best information about vaccines?
Great question. Yeah, so it's hard when you get conflicting information, but I'm here to assure parents that the science hasn't changed. And because of that, the AAP recommendations remain the same childhood vaccine schedule that we've recommended. And we do make alterations as more becomes known through research, but definitely trust your pediatrician and ask those questions because they will have the most up-to-date recommendations on what's best for your child.
Yeah, Jennifer, speaking of the AAP recommendations, some parents may have noticed that the AAP's immunization recommendations are now different from the CDC's. Why is that?
The reason for the difference is because the AAP's recommendations are based on the science that has accumulated over the many years, and the CDC ones that came out from the Department of Health and Human Services were kind of like, well, maybe you don't need so many. And so they were looking for ways to kind of just decrease the number without basing it on things like, well, how many do you actually need in order to become immune? And so there are no safety concerns or efficacy concerns with the current schedule as recommended with the American Academy of Pediatrics. So I would definitely advise parents to talk to their pediatrician to make sure their child is as protected as possible.
I love it. And the majority of us will be following the AAP's recommendations for the reasons you explained, Jennifer. And staying on the topic of vaccines, the next question says, I heard the recommendations on flu vaccines for children changed, and I keep hearing that it's a really bad flu season. What do I need to know, and will it become more difficult to get my kid a flu shot?
Good questions. Let's answer that second question first. I'm hoping, and at this point, I don't think it's more difficult to get your child a flu shot, and it's not too late. We do recommend that everyone over the age of 6 months get a flu vaccine every season and ideally try to get it before Halloween for the best protection. So let's just start with that. As far as why the CDC no longer recommends it or makes it optional or talk to your physician, we always encourage you to talk to your physician, but your physician will likely encourage getting the vaccine. Flu vaccine is recommended for everyone over the age of 6 months. In general, the people at highest risk are at the ends of the spectrum of age. So older than 65, for example, and then younger than about 2 to 5 years of age.
Yeah. And, I've been having some very honest conversations with my patients that I think there were not enough pediatricians involved in this decision-making from the CDC, because if you'd asked any of us, we've been drowning in flu, right? I don't know about your practice, but we've seen so much flu. So to take away a recommendation in the middle of flu season for flu shots just tells you that they didn't ask enough of us. What do you think?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, right? So if you see a lot of flu, you should be getting the flu vaccine to try to prevent it. And the vaccine is the best way we know to avoid getting the flu. And for the people who are getting very sick from the flu, ending up in the emergency department or hospital or getting very sick or even dying, the majority of them have not had the flu vaccine. And so I think, that tells you something right there that getting the vaccine can be protective.
Yeah. And the next question is going to make us pivot a little bit, Jennifer. It is about screen time. It says, my mother-in-law likes to show my 10-month-old funny videos on her phone, and I'm concerned that this might affect my baby's development. Am I overreacting, or should I be concerned about introducing my baby to screens too early?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. First of all, I love that the mother-in-law is involved and interacting with the baby. So that is wonderful. That said, for children under the age of 18 months, there really is not much benefit to screen time unless we're talking about video chatting, such as with a relative. So if the grandma wasn't around, then doing like a FaceTime or video chat would make a lot of sense because it's in real time, it's a real person. Babies that age really don't know the difference between, real and pretend. So when you're showing them something on the screen, there's really very limited benefit. And there's a chance that it could cause problems with sleep, with attention span, behavior issues. So for that age group, it's really not recommended to even look at funny videos. I think grandma can look at the funny videos on her own time.
I couldn't agree more. Next up, Jennifer, my child started preschool this year and is having a hard time learning to share toys with her peers. Oh, we've all been there. What are some tips for teaching her how to share?
Okay, so great question. Preschoolers a lot of times are self-centered and not in a bad way. That's just the way their stage of development is. And so they think of themselves first. If you can set a timer for taking turns, maybe, one person gets it for 1 or 2 minutes and the other person can get it the next 1 or 2 minutes. If they can see the timer count down or hear the bell go off or watch like a sand timer count down, then it can be more visual or concrete to them to say, okay, now I can see that it's almost my time to take a turn and, give it to my friend. So timers can work very well. If you have multiple of one item and they both can play with a race car, for example, they're just a little bit different, then they both get a race car and then maybe you swap. If you have like 20 crayons, then each person gets 10. And then again, if you want to trade colors, then you trade later. So it's more about taking turns, I think, than anything, because, it's a little bit different. We're talking about taking turns rather than actually sharing. It's not like when you have a piece of cake or something and you can share by cutting it in half and splitting it. We're mostly talking about, let's say you have one toy, but you need to take turns using it. Yeah.
It's honestly, I love that answer because it's so true. People are like, oh, you need to teach children to share. And it's like, no, you're not teaching them to share.
Exactly.
It's taking turns.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So funny you talk about taking turns. My nephews were visiting recently. So we had 3 preschool boys, I should say, which is like a different flavor sometimes it feels like in our household. And I have to tell you, please share, sharing is caring, all of those things that you say did not work that well.
It's hard.
But turns did. Turns definitely did. So I can attest to that recent experience in our household.
Yeah, teach them my turn, please, or have them be patient and look at the clock.
Yeah, I love it. On to a different topic, Jennifer. The next one says, my 5-year-old gets chronic nosebleeds. What causes them and how can I best treat them?
Yeah, so that's super common in kids. And a lot of times kids will outgrow them even, after being teenagers. Picking the nose is the most common cause. The inside of the nose can be very delicate, especially during cold and flu season, or if a child has allergies, or if they've been bumped in the nose. So there can be many causes, but basically what happens is blood vessels close to the surface of the inside of the nose can kind of get irritated and rupture and bleed. One way to treat it is to put a little bit of saline gel or Vaseline in the inside of the nostrils. Once a day, once a week, whatever, depending on how frequently your child has it. Running a humidifier at bedtime can also help. And then just teach your child how to pinch the nose to stop bleeding. You want to pinch the end where it's kind of fleshy or soft and hold your fingers there for a good 5 minutes. Some people even say 10 minutes before removing your hands. And then if it's still bleeding after that, it's a good time to call your pediatrician.
Yeah. And I always tell my kiddos no peeking because I think there's a lot of
Yes.
right? A lot of tendency to want to see if it stopped yet. Did it stop yet? So let's commit 5 to 10 minutes, no peeking. Then
No
we'll
peeking
check.
and no picking. I like that.
Yes, love it. The next question, Jennifer, is about teens. It says, my teen is interested in getting a weekend job. How do I know they're ready for their first job, and what steps can I take to help them succeed?
Oh, that's a great question. So teenagers, a lot of times they are looking for the job because they want to have a little bit of spending money. That's what I'm hearing from my teen. And I think if they are showing signs of responsibility in other parts of their life, then they're probably ready to take on the responsibility of a job where they have to report and get paid for it. So maybe if they've started out with like a babysitting job on occasion and have proven that they can show up on time and do the responsibilities expected of them. So maybe start a little bit slow. If they are able to get their schoolwork done on time and their other activities, if a job will not impact their school negatively, then maybe it's time. And so I think a parent can help the teen figure out what type of work they are able to manage, what type of work they can get to, because teens don't always have transportation.
Right.
And we want it to be a safe and supportive place for them to work, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We have time for one more, Jennifer. There's been a lot of talk about protein-heavy diets for kids. Should I be worried about my child's protein intake? Is it possible to have too much protein in a diet?
So in general, from eating protein in your diet, our bodies, especially the kidneys, do a pretty good job of it. It's when you start to overdo it and maybe add protein in the form of shakes or powders or bars or whatever. For teenagers in general, a good guideline is about 50 grams per day. And some kids who are maybe trying to bulk up, gain some weight, gain some muscle mass might take a little bit extra, but you definitely don't want to overdo it because too much protein can cause problems with the kidneys. And we definitely don't want kids having kidney issues at a young age.
We absolutely don't. Thank you so much, Jennifer. This was so fun. Let's do it again soon.
Yes, please. Thank you so much for asking me, Edith. Have a great day.
You as well. That was Dr. Jennifer Shu. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you at home for joining us as well. If you like the Healthy Children podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app and help us spread the word. Follow Healthy Children on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Healthy Children AAP. And be sure to visit healthychildren.org, the parenting website of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Healthy Children is a production of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Our creative team includes
Laura Alessio,
Catherine Beard,
Garrett Brown,
Zach Christman,
Ann Johnsos,
Kathy Jewell,
Claire Keating,
Doug Nagel,
Jackie Ortega,
Susan Stevens Martin,
Mary Claire Walsh,
Hannah Weston.
and our theme music was composed by Doug Nagel. We'll be back soon. I'm Dr. Edith Bracho-Sanchez. Thanks for listening.